Hello everyone, welcome to another interview for BSG Annual 2021. I'm Kaadzik and right now with me is Zojalyx. Zojalyx, how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing well. I'm doing really well.
Even though it's pretty late for you in the US.
Yes.
Okay. We're coming today because, well, you've had already a bunch of your runs beforehand on BSG yesterday, I believe.
Yep.
And you're gonna run Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, in quite a while, about an hour and a half or so. But right now, you mentioned to me in Discord DMs before the interview that you've never been interviewed before, and I've
Yeah.
seen you've been running many different games for quite a while. So I think it's a good opportunity to ask you, how did you discover speedrunning in the first place, and how did your beginnings look like for different games?
Speedrunning was actually introduced to me by my older brother. His screen name is Little Dog in 2013. I was about 12 years actually, yeah, this I was after AGDQ 2013. And I was about 12 years old, and my brother Aaron and we were always like, yeah, we always loved playing Banjo Kazooie. Like if one person was playing, the other was sitting there watching, and we would sit and we would 100% play it through constantly. Um, and so what would happen is he then came up to me and he was like, "Hey, do you know that there's this guy who can beat it in like 2.5 hours?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?" Because it would take us like 8, 9 hours every single time to 100% the game. And so then we sat down and we watched the Banjo Kazooie 100% run from AGDQ 2013. And it was like, yeah, there's this whole thing. And we watched that. We watched like Donkey Kong 64, a lot of these classic games on the N64 we were watching runs of. And I kind of had that mindset of like, this is so cool. There's no way in the world I could ever do this. And never tried speedrunning at all because I was just absolutely terrified of being bad at the game. And then it was my senior year of high school. About 4 years later, the same brother comes up to me and he's like, "You and I are going to do a Banjo Kazooie 100% race." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, what? You're ridiculous." Um, and well, we ended up I was like, "Let me learn how to I literally was like, "Okay, fine. Let me learn how to speed run the game and we can do it sometime." Because I thought that was something he was doing, like he was already like decently good at. No, he had never actually completed a full run. But then I started learning the game and practicing and just immediately just fell in love with the game and just fell in love with speedrunning. It felt super nice just to be able to like that first time I finished my first Banjo Kazooie 100% run, which was over 5 hours. It was an absolutely dreadful run, time. But just like to take that and then like to continue to get better and better at the game felt so good. And just, I haven't found any reason to stop speedrunning.
That's a very interesting story. Yeah, I like that your brother just dragged you in and you stayed for longer.
And for the record, we have not raced yet. That never happened. The race never happened.
Maybe after the years you can call him. Hey, of the race, you can just.
Oh, I give him crap for it all the time. I'm like, "We still have not raced." Like, I have my N64 here. I could just boot it up right now. I haven't speedran Banjo-Kazooie in about 3 years, but still.
Okay, if that happens, please tell me. I would love to watch that
All right.
eventually. Okay, but back to the present. We've talked about some past times. As I've mentioned, your next run is the Two Towers in Lord of the Rings. Right now, there is a bid war for this run to pick a character you're going to play.
Yep.
Do these characters have separate sets of missions or storylines, or is it just a matter of varying gameplay mechanics? Can you explain some of the major differences here?
Yeah, so the all the level design and story is all the same. It's yeah, just like you said, it's all their in-game mechanics. Each of the different characters have I'd say like various play styles. They all have kind of similar abilities because it's a very early style hack and slash combo. And so a lot of the abilities come out to be like similar button combinations, which really helps actually with muscle memory. But because some of them have very different, like there's some slightly different mechanics, it changes the way you would have to then like it changes the way you would then have to go about your run. Hence why we have category splits, because one of the biggest differences is Aragorn is very much a sword fighter, but he also has like a decently strong range. Legolas, you pretty much like you upgrade his bow, and then once you get your max bow upgrade, you just sit and you spam arrows because his bow just becomes super overpowered. And Gimli, if you were using your ranged attack, you are either hitting something that you can't hit with your axe, or you're doing something wrong. His ranged ability is just absolutely garbage, but he can do so much damage with his melee attack, and so the strats kind of vary differently based on that.
Okay, so I hope that everyone has heard that before. They still can donate for that cause, they still can change up a few things, and maybe make you suffer a little bit more.
Just just don't let Gimli win. That's all I ask.
Okay, so right now we know what will probably win in a while. Okay, I see. But sticking to the topic of Lord of the Rings, I know that this speedrunning community is very important to you, and
Mhm.
you've been very invested into developing it. Do you think that such a massive popularity of this series in general public, right,
Yeah.
helps the community grow, or are there other more important factors?
Honestly, when it comes to, it's weird because while there is a huge just overall fan base for Lord of the Rings, the speedrunning side of it is very unknown. I think our most popular game has like 15 runs on the leaderboard, and that's Lego Lord of the Rings, which is kind of in its own separate entity with the rest of the Lego stuff. Like all the Lego games kind of do their own thing. Um, but even still, like the speedrunning part of it, even though the games are so well known, people have a lot of childhood nostalgia for games like Two Towers and Return of the King and just all that other stuff. And I think that helps at least to get a lot of people to at least be interested in watching them. But as far as building the community in terms of getting more runners, that's actually kind of the part where I haven't really been sure of what to do, because at least for the games that I've run, I've tried to like keep obviously streaming them and then put out tutorials and different stuff to
Mhm.
just make the runs as accessible as possible. So I don't know. I just kind of try to do what I can, and I think one of the things that has been helping though is us starting to do more community events like races and different showcases and stuff. At least we're trying to start some showcases, but that's difficult when we're still really small. I think we have about like we're still in my mind we're still a pretty small community, so it's hard to really set some things up like that.
Okay, I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed that some of the runs you do on the event, maybe this one even, are gonna help the community grow as well.
Mm.
Um, so about big franchises, Lord of the Rings is one of them. The other one is Star Wars,
Hmm.
and you also run Star Wars games because yesterday, as we mentioned, you did The Force Unleashed and The Force Unleashed 2. In my opinion, they were very joyful runs to watch. It was pretty late for me because morning, but I managed to watch them up later, and they were pretty fun. How do you feel about them overall?
Overall, I was really happy with how they went. I was a little surprised that the first major trick in the run in Force Unleashed 2 I struggled with, but some days you have those tricks that just they don't connect. So, but overall, I think I was actually really happy. I managed to shake it off and still actually just be able to focus on the rest of the run, which I thought was good. And just the fact that I still was able to get the big ship out of bounds, because even if I'm not able to skip
Mhm.
the TIE fighters like I wanted to, just being able to get the big ship out of bounds is kind of the key point of the trick that I think is still the cool part to show off there. So overall, I was really happy. And I had my splits up for Force Unleashed, and I was actually on PB pace for Force Unleashed 1, but up until the bid war closed, and I had to fight the Emperor and lose and just immediately accept the 3-minute time loss to fight the Emperor. So I could have PB'd if Darkseid won, and I'm like, okay, but that's fine.
That's so cool to hear. I guess it's just a marathon luck sometimes,
Yeah.
even individuals it's themselves. But
Mhm.
still, that this was a very very nice run to watch. Um, Last but not least, another franchise that we're gonna touch on, and the one that's very close to me as well. And we've talked about it for the past 20 minutes before the interview started. Kingdom Hearts. Now, you've prompted me that the story about you starting Kingdom Hearts runs is very interesting, and I have to ask
Mhm.
for that. Can you please
Yeah.
elaborate on that? What
So,
happened there?
this was very much a case of I'm too broke to speedrun the game I want to speedrun. So it was I just started really getting into speedrunning, and I was like, I love Kingdom Hearts. I need to speedrun Kingdom Hearts. This is something I need to do. And I'm like, okay, I only have the PS2 copies. What can I do with these? And because I couldn't afford a PS4, the Xbox ports weren't a thing. I didn't even have an Xbox One either. And so I look up the world records and I see that the world record for Kingdom Hearts 1 on PS2 was like 5 hour was over 5 hours, and then the one for Kingdom Hearts 2 was just barely under 4. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I don't know if this is a good idea. And in comparison to now, like the PS4 versions, where Kingdom Hearts 1, now with the PC port, is sub 2 loadless, and Kingdom Hearts 2 is sub 250, like huge gaps in time between the
Yeah.
versions. And I was like, okay, well, this sucks. And I just kind of was like, I don't want to dedicate a lot of time to speedrun these PS2 ports and have to be like, okay, here's my stream. We're going to do one no reset and that's it. Because that's usually about how much time I have to run and
Mhm.
stream. It's about 4 to 6 hours on a good day. Um, but I started just kind of watching runs and getting involved and started talking to a lot of the other runners like Crystal Crown, Dessa, Ninten, Insert Logic when he ran. I was just talking and still actually like felt really intricately part of the community, even though I had never touched a speed run before in my life. Um, and and then it was it was the winter before COVID, so winter of 2019. One of my friends was like, here, Merry Christmas, and shipped me an Xbox One. And I'm like, okay, here's an Xbox One that I'm now getting for free. And then about like 2 months later, the Xbox ports for Kingdom Hearts came out. And I was just like, this is a sign from RNGesus. Like this is my time. And I was so happy. I bought all of the games like right away. I bought 1.5 plus 2.5, 2.8. I bought Kingdom Hearts 3 plus Remind. Like just immediately went and just dropped like $100 on everything so I could speedrun these games. And I've dedicated a lot of time to them. I think I still plan on obviously dedicating a lot more time to them because they're fantastic runs. Um, but and then the PC ports came out, and I'm like, okay, well now this is an even better version of the game. Because the Xbox ports, some of them they weren't terrible, but to try and play I noticed that there's actually a huge difference when playing Kingdom Hearts with an Xbox controller versus a PS4 or PS5 controller. I didn't think there was actually going to be as big of a difference, but I learned that it makes quite a big of a difference. But just the cool thing is like no matter how much I felt like there was no way in the world I was going to ever be able to afford a PS4 or anything, was still able to join and be a part of the community, and then eventually now have my time where I can speedrun the games and be able to just continue to find more and more ways to enjoy them.
Honestly, that's indeed a great story. Thank you for prompting me to ask you for that because yeah, that's a very nice wrap up for the entirety of the interview because that's it for me. So thank you so much for being the guest.
Yeah, of
And
course.
let's see how good you can do with this Gimli character because I hope it's gonna win
Oh no,
in
don't do
Lord of the
that.
Rings: Two Towers pretty soon. So yeah, any final words before we close up?
I just want to say thanks for having me to do 3 runs and be able to showcase these 3 runs specifically are runs that I've put the most time into, and being able to show them off and this kind of a platform is just always something I absolutely love to do. So just thank you for uh, letting me show these off, and I hope you guys enjoy seeing not only my childhood babies that I played way too much casually growing up, but now being able to take them in this way and show them off to just other people who probably have no idea how great at games they are, and now they can see right here. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Zojalyx, for being with us today. And yeah, let's hope for the best for BSG Annual 2021. See ya.